Welcome back to SportSense. This is the show where we break down sports news for sports noobs. And this is season 2, episode 22. In fact, I think I saw a meme about how 222 is like a magic. I think it's a good omen. So this should be a great episode, everybody. I'm Cooper, and I'm on a journey to understand sports and sports culture, guided here by my very own father, my biological father, James Epps.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome,
Coop.
Dad.
Yep,
Hey,
good to see you.
We also have here my blood brother, Keaton Epps.
I thought you were going to say beloved brother. I thought, wow.
Beloved blood
I thought
brother.
that was coming too. But,
yeah.
Well, hey, Keaton, welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, you got the whole headset on and everything. You're ready to go.
Yeah.
In fact, let's do a double check. Last week, I apologize. I had the wrong mic on. It looks like everybody else, we're all good this week. So sorry for the sound quality last week, but we should be good to go. Okay. Before we go any further, remember that you can go into the details of the episode, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. You can go to the episode details and see like a whole write-up I do every week. And part of that, I have time codes with topics associated with each one. You just click on it and you can skip to whatever topic you're most interested in. So, okay. Without further ado, let's just jump right in. We're going to do a little mailbag at the end and some NFL updates at the end as far as what's going on with the playoffs. There's a couple weeks left, or like 1 week left. Anyways, we'll get into that before the Super Bowl. Super Bowl's almost here. And but while we've got Keaton here, Coach Keaton, Coach Epps, as I'm sure many player have called you by now. And we're going to talk about what happened last night. The Indiana versus Miami, what do you call it? College football championship. So one of the highlights of the year, and there's a bigger story behind the winner than I realized. And so that's why we got Keaton here. Dad, chime in whenever you want, of course.
Will do.
But Keaton, before we get to kind of your initial thoughts on if you were happy or disappointed or whatever you took away from the championship game, let's get into a little bit of sports speak. Let us learn some sports speak. What is a winning season in football?
I would say, very simply put, it's more wins than losses.
Great. Okay.
It could go in. You can go into so much more depth on that, and it's in relation, or it's relative to what team, what program, what state you're in. But yeah, more wins than losses if you really boil it down. Interesting.
So wait, what would the context be if I had more wins than losses and it wasn't considered a winning season?
Technically it is if you have more wins than losses. But if you're at, let's say, an LSU and you go 9-3, or heaven forbid 8-4, you're done, you're fired, you get run out of the state, and it's on to the next coach. So there's expectations.
I differentiate between winning, Cooper, and a successful season.
Yeah, winning and successful. There you go. Yeah.
So
I think
Keaton's
talking about, you could go 9-3 at LSU at Alabama, and it's not, and you don't make the playoffs. It was not a successful season. Like he said, they might not be coaching there next year.
But colloquially, a commentator or a sports fan might not call it a winning season if it was a bad enough one for one of those big schools, like you're saying.
No, I think Keaton's right. I think it's winning is if you have more wins than losses. So if you're 7-6, you had a winning season.
Is it across the board of sports? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. Anything above 500, and I think I even consider, maybe because I'm in the doldrums of fanhood for most of my teams, but I even consider 500 a winning season. So 500 and above, but would be a winning season.
That's kind of a sportsy term too that I've had to wrap my head around. A 500 means 0.500, right? Like 50%.
Yes.
Halfway. Yeah. Okay. Gosh. Yeah. Because whenever people talk about batting averages in baseball, it's like I have to do so much math in my head to arrive at, like, just say they had a 37% batting average, right? Why do you have to say
we went through all this with you last year?
62 and a half.
Oh my gosh.
You're
taking away the fun of it, the beauty.
Baseball is 3 digits. You talk in 3 digits in
Right.
baseball.
I think it's a boy thing. Boys love putting military time on their phone screens and, saying way too many numbers for, which, hey, I'm a guy. I'm just,
I was just getting ready to say, aren't you a boy?
So I guess what I'm saying is I kind of get the appeal of it. It sounds cool. It's like Roger 1040 or whatever, it's cool. So I get it. Anyways, we digress. So sorry, but okay, we get what
you veered off in not a very good area for you. So bring it back. Let's get back.
Okay, bringing it back
That's why
to
you got
winning
Keaton here.
seasons. Okay, so the stat that got me wondering about that term, like what exactly defined it, is Indiana's head coach, who, if you hadn't heard, Indiana won the college football championship last night against Miami, and their coach is named Curt Cignetti. Am I saying that right as far as you guys know?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Signetti. He must be Italian or something. I don't know.
He is, yeah. Pat McAfee always calls him Paisan. Yeah, so Paisan. So yep, he
Okay.
is.
Okay, let's come back to the Paisan thing. But the stat I heard was before Curt Cignetti came to Indiana in 2024, so that was 2 seasons ago, Indiana had only had 3 winning seasons since 1995. So almost 3 decades and with only 3 winning seasons. So that's a 10% average about, right, of winning.
Yeah, and if you date, you might have this on your stat sheet, but if you date back further, they're the losingest program in college football history. I don't know if you're going to bring that up.
I heard one of the announcers say that. So yeah, but I forgot about it. So that's crazy. Yeah. So basically I think that's the story in the headlines this morning is from losing his team to undefeated national champions, Indiana University. This is their moment of glory. So and they got their first Heisman winner this year. We've talked about him a few episodes ago, Mendoza. So, anyways, yeah, let's get into it. Like the actual game, Keaton. Who did you think at the beginning of the college football season was going to win? First of all.
Well, I picked when it got to the playoff, and I thought this beforehand. I thought Georgia had a really good chance, and I thought the SEC there was a lot more parity than normal. But I thought they had Kirby. They had some continuity there that some other SEC teams didn't have with Kirby as the head coach. I just forgot his name. Kirby, what is his name? Coach Kirby.
Smart.
Coach Smart. Kirby Smart.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean he's a great coach, and they've been a great program. And I just thought it was not a weak SEC, but just weaker in comparison to past years, and I thought they could really run with it, Georgia. So that was and then even when we got to the playoff, they did make the playoff. I thought they were going to run away with it, but they didn't.
Yeah, that's who we both picked, right, Dad? No, you had Texans at the beginning of the season.
I didn't even get the playoffs
too. Yeah,
or Texans.
They almost did.
Yeah, Texas. Yeah, Texas really crashed and burned.
I think I'm a year early. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see about next year.
I hope so. Okay, so yeah, we saw that, what happened to Georgia, but so how did you feel with last night's matchup about Indiana and Miami?
I thought it was great. Especially when I don't have my own personal dog in the fight, I always like the underdogs. And even though Indiana was ranked number 1, they are still seen as an underdog widely. And we saw that if anybody was watching the pregame, very credible, guys that football guys that are in the game of football, in and out, watching tons of film. They all almost picked against them. Everybody did. They picked Miami. The only one that picked Indiana was Pat McAfee, and he played for the Colts, and he lives in Indiana, so he had no choice. He had to pick Indiana. But they all picked 10th ranked Miami versus number 1 Indiana, and so they were seen as an underdog so much of the season. Even though they were number 1 in there, they were still underdogs. Vegas didn't have them as underdogs, but I was really happy to see both of them. Miami sneaked into the college football playoff and the ACC. And how the ACC didn't have a great representative. They didn't even make the ACC championship game. And the ACC is seen as just abysmal in college football. And they didn't make the conference championship game. And they got in. They still got in despite that and ended up in the championship game, beat some really good teams along the way. So I thought it was a great matchup. I was hoping for a really good game, and it was one. Yeah. Unfortunately, I fell asleep, and I'm old and I couldn't stay awake, but I fell asleep before it ended. But I watched most of the rest of it. But it was a great game. It looked like Indiana was going to blow them out for a little bit there, but Miami kept fighting, kept pounding the rock. It made great halftime adjustments and really got running the ball in the second half. And they scored more offensive points than Indiana, but credit to Coach Cignetti. It's a 3-phase game, and a lot of people forget the third phase, which is special teams. And they had a block punt for a touchdown in the second half, and it's so much more than 7 points. It's what that can do to a game and a team, and I think that really tilted
morale goes through the roof
on both sides.
So
no, morale goes through. Yeah, on the one that gets it goes through the roof. The one who gives it up,
right.
It hurts. So that's the difference in the ball game, as it turns out, right? I mean,
points wise, it was. Yep.
So
won the game.
Let me interpret what you're saying, which is you said Miami scored more offensive points, which if people listening didn't understand what you're saying, I'm going to use my new sports knowledge to translate to say that, offense, when a team has the ball, they can throw pass and run the ball and try to get a touchdown, but defense can get a touchdown by intercepting and running it in, and special teams, like you said, can block a punt and then grab that. In this case, they grabbed it in the end zone and got a touchdown. So that's what you're meaning by Miami technically had more offensive points.
Which it didn't look like it was going to happen in the first half. I think Indiana had almost 200 yards and Miami only had like 70 total yards. So I was scared Miami was going to come out and put up another 50 yards and barely have over 100 yards. So I love seeing them come out and really compete, and really they made adjustments. They were running, but it's probably too much, but they were running between the tackles, so kind of behind the center and the guards the first half, and they were getting a chunk every there, but not consistently. And their passing game, Indiana was swarming their receivers, and it just looked like they had 8 defensive backs in coverage the whole time, even when they didn't. And so I was worried there wasn't going to be any spark from Miami, but they made great adjustments, started running outside, and used their speed that they have, which was the advantage. They had that advantage on Indiana. They had speed, and they got to show it. And so there were some really fun, explosive plays in the second half.
Yeah. So what? I want to move into our coaching conversation, which is the big reason I wanted you to come on tonight. But Dad, any other just initial reactions from the game before we get into that?
Oh, I think it's one for the history books. That game really was. Just how Keaton fell asleep. I know you've seen the highlights. How it finished, it was building to a crescendo. I mean, Miami had gained the confidence, and what sparked him was a 57-yard touchdown run. And that number 4 on that, once he broke loose, Indiana didn't have anyone of his speed. I mean, the separation they got when he took off, the cornerback was chasing him. Once they, whoever cornerback, the speediest looking guy, and it was just separation. Man, that guy never had a chance. But anyway, so that really got him fired up. But I tell you, I love it about team. And I know Keaton, I'm going to save it for Keaton because I know you want to talk about how can Indiana turn around, and I want to make sure there's a part about Indiana has no 5-star recruits. I'll let Keaton build that into in talking about them. But having their quarterback pull off what he did on that, 4th and 5 with the game on the line, and he pulls off first of all, the offensive coordinator, whoever I guess he's the one, he was the one calling it, calls a quarterback draw on 4th and 5. I mean, crazy. And then the run he made, if you haven't seen it, you've got to go back and just watch it, because you think he's hit and taken down. He might get the first down, but surely he's not going to get in the end zone. Somehow he bounces off a guy and just goes pure horizontal to the ground, just flying through the air. I mean, literally flying through the air across, and sticks the ball out and scores a touchdown. I mean, it's crazy. What a crazy finish. And then the defense had to put a nail in the coffin with the interception at the end. But I mean, it really is about one of the best college, not just championship, just college games about I've ever seen, but definitely a championship game
They
It was awesome.
they played really
Yeah.
clean. There weren't turnovers, I don't think, until the last. I missed that, but the Carson Beck's interception for Miami that finished the
That
game.
was it.
There weren't any turnovers. So both sides, well coached, clean, well executed game. So that
Miami had 8
fun
penalties, and they're one of the top penalized teams in the country, and that hurt them some. But it was really, we've talked about this before, Cooper. It's the timing of the penalty and when it occurs. And by the way, Indiana had 4, and 2 of them were early on, and then they played the most perfect game after that. But the critical, tell you about difference of penalties is that Miami had Indiana back on their heels. It was 3rd and like 17. And they were just going to try to run and get some yards, maybe to get a better punt position. And a defensive lineman reached out and grabbed the running back's mask in the corner and yanked his head. And that was face mask, 15 yards for automatic first down. That right there was another turning point in that game. So there were so many different plays like that. You just had to see them, catches by both teams. I mean, I was into it. I was totally enthralled. I just loved it.
Well, apparently,
and I couldn't decide who I wanted to win the whole time. I kept going back and forth. So
I kind of felt that way too, but yeah, once I realized the tension there, that it was Indiana's, it would have been their first championship ever in school history, their first perfect season ever, and that they had been the losingest team in college football history. I did start to get on their side for sure. But I also love the idea of a team, like you said, from a conference, the ACC, that nobody thought anything about, and they didn't even make their own conference championship game. I did love the idea of them climbing all the way to the top and
it's our conference. We call it our conference, right? Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, in the Southeast.
And that's the only little reason, because I've always hated Miami, but I'll leave it. I mean, growing up here, I just hated Miami. I never liked them at all. But so anyway, Indiana, I was happy for Indiana.
Yeah, so yeah, it was super interesting, and that's what I posted some stuff on our Instagram before the game, talking about how there were torn feelings, and it seemed like it was just going to be a good game for if you're a football fan. Okay, now here's the story in my mind after seeing all that. It's really settling in after seeing Indiana make it all the way. They got the championship, and I finally pulled up the coach's Wikipedia page and just read it from top to bottom, and because I was just like, who is this guy? And I have a couple questions about him, but Keaton, maybe let's start by speaking generally to like how can just a coach, because to me in the end, it's like the players on the field throwing the dang ball and catching it and running around, like to me, it's like they're ultimately the ones who execute it. So how does a coach have so much power and sway over the outcome of a team? In this case, taking Indiana from the dregs of college football to being the top team in the league.
Well, coach is an incredible force of nature, and I've always loved it, and I had the privilege of seeing it firsthand in high school. We were a terrible football program, and we had a new coach come in my 8th grade year and flipped it immediately. And so that fascinated me, and I wanted to know more about that, how that worked, why it worked, and I got to live it. And so that was great. And so I've always been interested in that, and always been interested in flippers, guys that can flip a program that was terrible and then make it into something great or competitive. And he is that. But how they can do it, I think first of all, they have to have a personality where the players know they are on their side. They see that the coach is invested in them and that they want them to succeed, and they have their best interests in mind, and it's not flipped. And I think he does that. You listen to any of them, and they share how much they think of Coach Cignetti, so think highly. But anyway, just a coach in general. And then they have to believe that they can do it. So they have to know that coach knows what he's talking about. And then if they listen to him, and of course he has all of his support staff, but he's the one that's got to put it all together. He has to have the right coordinators. He has to have the right assistants, the right analysts, the right secretaries, the right everything. And they have to believe that they know what he's doing. If they don't, if there's any question of credibility, it's gone. The locker room's gone. And then a guy out there that might be playing outside linebacker is like, you know what? That coach doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't live the right way off the field. He doesn't do what he asked us to do. He doesn't live up to that same standard. I'm going to do what I want on this play. Or I'm in this system, I'm going to do what I want. And if you have that, it just cannot be functional. It's like having a bunch of kids in a household and you have all the ingredients for food and you say, go feed yourselves for a week and imagine what would happen.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing, especially these guys are. So Indiana's a little different story and we can talk about that, why they were able to flip. So they were a little older, but they really are so young still. They're 18 and there's Miami, I think, was he 17?
He turned 8. He had turned 18. Just turned 18.
Gosh. But these are such young kids, and really, when you think about it, even though they look like grown men, and so they need leadership, they need guidance and stewardship. And I mean, the same thing can happen. NFL is a whole different beast because those are grown men. But in college, they need sound, or they need a direction and a strong direction, and to get in sync with that. And if you have somebody that can do that, it can change everything immediately. But if there's any, and I mean just one player that doesn't believe that coach knows what he's doing, that's a problem. He either needs to go or the coach is a problem, and it spreads throughout the locker room. And then you have a bunch of guys doing what they think's best instead of doing what's best for the team. And it takes all 11 moving parts to work together for a play to work, for a defensive scheme to work. It really takes all 11. If there's one break, it looks like it's a terrible defense, but it could have just been one player that messed up and 10 did their jobs. It doesn't matter. You need all 11. And so you have to have a really convincing, trusting, guiding hand at the helm of it. And so when a coach comes in and does that and gains the trust of the locker room, that's the first thing he's got to do. And then you have to be able to coach them and put them in the right positions and gain validity. And you do that by going through film. You go through the field and you show them how it all comes together and how it works together. And once they can see it, they will buy in. But if there's confusion, I've had this, you go on the field and coaches are arguing, they don't know, they aren't on the same page. And it's really easy to see they're not on the same page. The players aren't going to be the same page, and it's going to be a mess. So it's really leading. You think about how many kids are on a team or guys are on a team. And college football, it's about 100. So you have to have 100 guys bought in. And there's a system, and you have to, and for these large schools, there's, I don't know, 20, 30 staff members for coaching staff. You have to have them all bought in on the same message, the same scheme. So it's quite the organization when you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a small army that you're assembling. It's crazy that people put this much effort into a game. Like, if you kind of think about it. But anyways, we won't go down that path. But because it's really cool, ultimately, and Dad, we've talked a lot on the podcast about the symbolism and significance of sports in our culture and how it's, So I on one hand, you can call it just a game, but obviously we've seen that it means more than that. So, but it is crazy when you think that it takes that many people to get somebody to properly throw to the right person to catch it and run to it, get a touchdown. That's wild. Okay. So I hadn't thought about all that with the culture and like selling everybody on the same vision. So that's a really cool perspective, Keaton.
So the reason it can happen also, it has changed the historic and unprecedented change of the landscape when it comes to NIL and the portal, right? So did you watching the game last night? Did you watch any of it, Coop?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Did you see Mark Cuban there on the sideline?
Oh no. He's
the number one NIL man for Indiana.
Oh, wow.
So all I'm saying is this is the cool part. And I heard Cowherd, I listen to Colin Cowherd. I think they get all their stats and their numbers research. Even though it's crazy and it seems out of control, the end product I'm excited about because it has flipped the world upside down. I am so tired of the SEC, right? I'm so tired of basically the same teams, the same 2 to 14. Man, you got it. It could happen anywhere, even BYU, right? Even Indiana University, which means it could happen in Purdue. I mean, football. Who knows? If you get the right coach, the right quarterback, and the right NIL kind of setup where you can get the play. But that's the beauty I wanted to mention was Indiana had zero 5-star recruits. 5-star is the highest star rating of any high school recruit. So that's interesting. And they had about the oldest average football team next to BYU in the country. Now, BYU always has the oldest ones in general because we have a lot of return missionaries still.
Yeah.
But they've got.
I think I haven't validated it, but I've seen the stat come up a few times that Indiana's team or starting team, their average age is older than the Green Bay Packers starting age.
Well, I think so because I think it's like 24. It's somewhere between 23 point something, leading to 24 years old. And
so you get a bunch of really experienced guys. I don't know if I think Indiana's going to be good for a really long time as long as Coach Cignetti's there. But having a 16-0 season, that hasn't happened since Yale in like 1895. I don't know, something crazy like that. Yeah. And I don't think it's going to happen with Indiana again next year. I would bet against it. But it was a lot of things that came together for good. But I mean, if you want me to talk a little bit more about Kurt Cignetti, I'll be as brief as I can because his story is awesome. Like I said, I love coaches that are flippers, and he's one. And so his dad was a coach at IUP. It doesn't make any sense. Indiana University of Pennsylvania. His dad coached there. But Kurt Cignetti, he grew up coaching, got in the world. That was good. He eventually but he always wanted to be a head coach, and he really hadn't got that nod, and he wanted it. And he went and coached for Coach Saban, Nick Saban at Alabama, revered as the best college football coach in history, even more than Bear Bryant, which, a whole nother conversation. But he was on his staff for 1 year, and I heard this interesting story preemptively to the game last night. But there's another staff member on there, and he was telling this story where Coach Saban, his alma mater was Kent State, a terrible football program in its own right. And so they called Nick Saban. They said, "We know our program is awful. We know it's terrible. Is there anybody on your staff that you have confidence in and that would want to come here?" And he's like, "I don't know." He said, "I will go find out and I'll get back to you." So they had a staff meeting. Everybody was there. And it was probably, just knowing how these work a little, like on the small scale, I bet it was just a bullet point in the meeting. But this gives you a little bit of insight into Kurt Cignetti's head and how he thinks and how he has this confidence to be, "I am the right man for the job. Follow me. I know what I'm doing. We will win." But so they come to the staff meeting. And he says, "Guys, Kent State's looking for a coach. Are any of you interested?" And one hand in the room went up, and it was Kurt Cignetti. And he said, and Coach Saban said, "Really? Do you really want this?" He says, "I want it, and I'll win there." And he said that before he was ever head coach. He said, "I want to be a head coach. Tell them I'll come be the head coach, and tell them we'll win, and we'll win immediately." And so, no, he hadn't proven himself yet. I'm sure some people laughed or thought, "Who is this guy?" But that's his mindset. So I think you got to be a little psychotic and very, confident, obviously, just oozing with, confidence that you can do whatever. But he wanted to be a head coach. And then he didn't get that job. I don't know what happened there. But IUP, Indiana University of Pennsylvania, where his dad was a legend of a coach, needed a coach. And after that 1 year with Alabama, they finally said, "Hey," they gave him the job. So he went, coach there, flipped that program. It wasn't a bad program, but he made them contenders immediately. And cool. I think their first year, instead of having 4 or 5 wins like they'd been having, they had 8. And then the next year, they went deep in the playoffs. They didn't win, but they were like 12-2. And then the next year, they had 11 wins or something. They getting 10 or more wins is incredibly difficult, and to do it in consecutive years is really hard. So he did that, and then he leveraged that into a little bit better job. Not too much, but a little bit better. into Elon, which is a small school, very small Division I school in North Carolina. Did the same thing there. Elon has had some good years here and there, but hadn't been having good years. Went there, won immediately, was there a few years. Yeah, won conference championships, went deep in the playoffs. Then he went to JMU, who I can't remember if they went FBS while he was there, but they were FCS, I think, when he started, which is a division under. There's two divisions in Division I football. It's really weird. Football Bowl Series and Football Championship Series. I don't even know what they call them nowadays.
I found myself down that Google rabbit hole earlier, and we'll do that another episode.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. But yeah. So he ended up at JMU, very small tier college one, but a little or Division I college, but a little bit more prestige. Yeah. But they hadn't been great. They had some good years and been decent and decently relevant, but then instantly championships there and conference championships deep in the playoffs there. It turned JMU, James Madison, into a real powerhouse. And then that's how he got to the Indiana job.
Okay.
So he's flipped everywhere he's gone. And then what's crazy...
I was going to say, for people who don't remember, JMU was in the playoff bracket this year.
And so
was he part of getting them good enough to...
Definitely. He laid the foundation, and another coach came, and that coach got hired away. I can't remember where he got hired away to this year. Florida? I can't remember where he went. But anyway, yeah, he's an incredible flipper, obviously incredible leader of young men. But he took a lot of those JMU players. They could enter the transfer portal. He said it wasn't in his mind to be like, I'm taking them all to Indiana. But a lot of them entered the portal. They had won championships together. They were older. And he transferred them over, or they came to Indiana and they wanted to play for him. And so these guys, like Dad said, I think they had a handful of 4 stars, no 5 stars, and like 20, I don't know, something 3 stars. And most of these teams, like the Alabamas, they have a dozen 5 stars, and then they have 20 or 30 4 stars. They essentially had none. And they got these guys from JMU and out of the transfer portal, smaller schools, older guys. And 3 of them were first-team All-Americans this year from these smaller schools that he took. So, I mean, that tells you he developed them, and it speaks to the nature of the college football landscape nowadays, where you can, if you prove yourself, you can bump yourself up and get yourself some money package at these higher schools, and you couldn't really do that before. But yeah, his story is awesome. He, in his first press conference at Indiana, they said, "Who are you?" And he said, "Google me, I win." And he's fun to watch. He hardly ever cracks a smile. He works. Their practice times are really short, so they're very efficient. He doesn't really joke. It's just work, 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 work. He doesn't keep them there that long. Gets them out. Go be with your families. Doesn't look like you said, it's crazy how much somebody puts into this game. I don't think he ever works out or really takes care of his health looking at him. I think this is all he does, really, and then goes home with his family, then comes back, all he does. And that's him and the quarterback are the same mindset. I saw Mendoza interview with him. They said, "Is it true that you don't have a girlfriend or you're not trying to?" He said, "Yeah, how I see it, I've got like 3 years where I can really get a chance." This was before he had any famedom at all. He said, "I had a few years where I can have a chance to make myself good enough to get into the NFL. So instead of spending 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. with a girl, I get my food and I go back into the film room and spend that 6 to 9, and I'm giving myself the best chance." So you had 2 guys like that and I think it's really pivotal, the quarterback, because the team will follow the quarterback, and the coach, that were of that mindset of, we are going to win. We're going to put in all the work. Nothing else is going to come above it. And we're going to make this our priority. And you see what happens when that happens. So yeah, that's it. That's the story of Curt Cignetti. There's a lot more to it, but really cool. Flipper of programs, good leader of men, crazy about football.
That's cool. I think this is a appropriate moment to give a shout out to the ladies in our lives and say, hey, we gave up our NFL careers to be with you, and you mean that much to us. We love you. So
absolutely. That's why he said he'll find a girlfriend later. Yeah.
And what I was hearing, I
Well-
mean, it is remarkable even in one season. He had a lot of people's attention, but I heard guys talking to, I mean, some of the like Hasselback, some of these quarterbacks, they say really in the last 5 to 7 games, he played himself into the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, he'd be building and building and building, but there were still a lot of questions. And then he just put the capstone on it last night. And that crazy how one play can really solidify your, I mean, just solidify you in the eyes of future professional teams that want you. But that one play really is going to go down. I forgot who it was. Urban Meyer was getting interviewed today and said, yeah, they're going to have a bronze statue of that Joker, talking about Mendoza reaching out, flying through the air outside their stadium. He said that's how big of a play it was at the right time, the right place, and he's the leader, and he did it. So anyway.
It was epic. And I will say, right when it happened, for the BYU fans listening, I was like, that's a Bear Bachmeier touchdown right there. I mean, just based on some of the ones that Bear got this season where he had to block multiple tackles and just, crawl for his life to that end zone to get the touchdown. And there's some pretty epic plays from Bear. So I feel like, if BYU had gone all the way, Bear would be getting the same attention. You know, hopefully he does get there, in the next year or so.
A few more years, 2-3 years.
A few more years, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's got to play 2 more years at least. But anyway, I just to follow up on Keaton, you had the question, and we'll put a cap on it. I think somewhat everything Keaton says is true. I think you also asked why are players playing longer? Well, that's just recent. Your top echelon players can now make decisions like the Oregon quarterback made. I mean, because he can financially afford now, where before many people financially are in real, financial straits, and the quickest they can get a payday is to get to the NFL, right? This is prior to NIL money. Now they have a choice to stay, which as they say, the NFL is not meant for development of players for the most part. College is a great place for development of players and your skills and learning how to be the best or to learn how to be a professional player. And Keaton, what's his name, the quarterback from Oregon? But anyway, he was only 20 years old. Yeah, Dante Moore. He only had 16 starts. And thankfully, he chose, which I think is wise generally. I guess Keaton and I talked about the quarterback from Penn State, Aller. It can backfire a little bit, but I still think at his age and his circumstance, I can't imagine the money he's going to make way more money in 1 year than he was going to make on his rookie contract in the NFL. And give himself a chance to mature, grow, and develop. So to answer your question, I think they can stay longer, the upper echelon players, because they can make somewhat of a living and allow themselves to do that. And hopefully, that's the number I heard today, Keaton, too, that this, again, it's the Wild West. I feel like it needs some rules, but right now, this year alone, the number of graduating football players from top Division I and Division I schools increased by 80% this year. So, we complain about them not getting an education. Well, apparently they're staying longer, and this is allowing them to actually complete their education. I don't know. I thought it's interesting, something to look at in the future, but it's a positive, I think.
Yeah, definitely a positive.
And I think, that's the other thing. The quality of football is going to is higher. It's better because you got guys staying longer that would maybe have jumped to the NFL a little early. We're getting some of those top players staying and playing college ball, and it makes the game so much better. Anyway,
I think it's a double-edged sword. It's a little bit of a double-edged sword just based on some of what I've been reading online, some people's takes on this issue, and we'll have to talk about it another episode. But yeah, thanks, Keaton. I don't know for that. That was a great breakdown of that game. Is there? Yeah, I'm looking at my notes. Oh, well, I just want to call out one thing I thought was pretty cool, which is that Mendoza in his post-game interview, he mentioned that he was a two-star recruit out of high school, which is pretty low. We talked about 5-star being the highest. And he tried to walk on to Miami and apparently was turned down from over there. And so, as he put it, this was a full circle moment, defeating Miami in the national championship game. So pretty cool.
In Miami.
in Miami too. Yeah,
They
in their
showed the
stadium.
map. His home from where Miami University is 2.5 miles. So
Wow.
that's where he grew up.
Okay, I didn't realize he grew up there. So right on. Okay, well, Keaton, get out of here. You stayed way too long with us, and we thank you so much for it.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's probably due to me talking too much, but I loved it. I love the Kurt Signetti story. I think that was great. And coaching, it really is so powerful. And you could tell every facet of their team was so disciplined and so they were so in tune with each other. And that really can flip a team plus good talent. If you have combined the both, it can flip it immediately. And it's been really cool to see that this year. A lot of credible pundits in the world are saying this is probably the greatest turnaround in sports history.
Dang.
Yeah, and team history. And Indiana's always been thought of as a basketball school. And to do this in 2 years, his first year they went to the college football playoff, which is crazy.
That's crazy.
In the second year, undefeated season, 16-0, won it in a very tough conference. Incredible story. So glad to be able to share part of it. I've enjoyed the journey.
Yeah.
I think we'd encourage our listeners, Coop, after what Keaton set up. I want to go back and listen. I didn't get all his press conference. Apparently, there's a snippet out there of him explaining why he never looks happy. And I haven't heard his answer to that yet.
I saw it right before we started recording. I haven't seen it either. So, yeah, we'll put it on the Instagram.
I did hear him say, they said, well, what are you going to do tomorrow? You know, he says, I might have one beer tonight. He said, but you know what? There's guys in the portal and there's guys we need to recruit. And basically, he's saying, I'm going back where he said, what else am I going to do? That's what he kept saying. What else am I going to do? Huh? He joked about retiring or something already, you know, and he's being funny. And then he said, yeah, what else am I going to do? And then he basically said, he's going back to work tomorrow. So
that's another,
like Keaton said, he's crazy.
It's another such a cool part of the story is that he was born in 61. So that makes him 65.
No, I'm 60. Yeah, right. Yep.
He didn't get his first head coaching gig until he was in his 50s.
That's crazy.
Wow.
So, and he always it's not like he was shying away from him. He wanted him. He didn't get a chance. And so that, very, very cool. And very happy for him. Like, yeah. So, anyway, thanks for having me.
Right on.
Thanks, Keith.
Yeah, Keaton, we'll talk to you later. Thank you so much. Well, and a point I forgot to bring up, Dad, is I Googled what the heck is a Hoosier yesterday, and I still didn't get to the bottom of it. So if any of you guys know, let me know.
Help us out.
It seems to have pioneer roots somehow. Like it was something about when Indiana was first formed, I think. I don't know. So
that's a good question. I never even thought about what a Hoosier is.
Yeah, such an odd word. Their mascot is a bison. That's all I know.
Which makes no sense either. So,
yeah, but if it's like kind of pioneer related, it kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Well, that was obviously an incredible story. We had to talk about that most of the episode, but
absolutely.
But can we do just a quick little baby NFL playoff update, Dad?
Yeah. Let me give it to you because we're spoiled this year between college and NFL football. It's a blast. I wish I could have watched every game, but I had to catch the highlights. My Super Bowl pick before the season began in NFL were the Bills, Buffalo Bills. Right. So it was painful to see them go out and loss in overtime. And not only that, to see the Broncos starting quarterback break his ankle. So therefore the next game, they're going to have a player. It's like the first time in history who hasn't even thrown a pass or started a game throwing a pass this year.
Okay. So the Bills got eliminated by the Broncos.
Correct.
And whose quarterback broke his ankle by the end of the game?
Bo Nix broke his ankle. So Jared Stidham is his name, and he's been around. He's a good backup, but he hadn't thrown in. He hadn't played this year. Nix was able to play anyway. So that's crazy, isn't it? And so I was crushed over that. But hey, Buffalo, and everybody's trying to blame one play, all the Buffalo fans, and it was a highly questionable interception they called against them. But Josh Allen had 2 interceptions. 2 lost fumbles. You just can't lose. The quarterback cannot lose the ball 4 times, have 4 turnovers, and expect to win. Now, Denver turned the ball over quite a bit too. But bottom line is you just cannot do that. The Bills had a total of 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers. Nobody wins a game usually if you have 5 turnovers. So it was remarkable that they were there at the end. But so they were gone. All right. So we now have Broncos. Broncos have moved forward. Broncos are playing the Patriots.
There goes our parlay, by the way, Dad.
Yeah, that finished.
We needed Dodgers, Bills, Rockets, and Hurricanes all win their championships, but we're already out with the Bills. Our $1 could have made 300, but yeah,
it wasn't my dollar. Just remember, we keep saying that. Patriots beat the Texans. Drake May was steady, wasn't great, but the Texans quarterback C.J. Stroud threw 4 interceptions. And what did I just say? You are not going to win. You throw 4 interceptions. So the Patriots beat them 28-16. So Patriots will be playing the Broncos. Now, those that hate the Patriots are going, oh my gosh, how lucky can they be? They had to play a guy who hadn't even played all year long and a backup and all that. But no, you never know. Believe me, I've seen crazier things. But Patriots are going to be favored in that game. So it's going to be Patriots and Broncos. The winner goes to the Super Bowl, right? So that's this coming weekend.
These are the conference matchups, right? The 2 NFL conferences.
This is the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship. So that's the AFC. Now, the NFC.
Who's in the NFC?
Again, you had one great game. It was the Bears and the Rams, who I'm pulling for the Rams now. Rams won in overtime, and they went to play in Chicago, and it was stinking cold. I mean, with the wind chill factor, it was in the single digits, I think. So Rams pull off an overtime win, even with the Bears quarterback, craziest 4th down scramble, ran backwards about 30 yards and fired it to the. They said maybe he might be the only one that can make that throw and to get a touchdown to get them close to get them to go into overtime. So it was a great and crazy game, but the Rams thankfully won. And then the Seahawks, they're looking tough. They crushed the 49ers. I mean, crushed 41-6. I mean, it's just, that's
rough.
If you're, and 49ers have band-aided it, duct taped it all the way to this point. But the Seahawks, which, I said before, they're going to win. They should beat them pretty good, but they crushed them. So NFC Championship game, going to be Seattle Seahawks against Los Angeles Rams. So that'll be fun.
Why are you liking the Rams? Why do you want them to win?
I like Puka Nacua. I just like their coach. I like their quarterback. I grew up, I think I told you the story. When I was a little kid, I was a Rams fan. They used to have white helmets, and let me tell you why. And blues Rams horns on their helmets. So they were blue and white. The reason is when I was here, most of the people in this area growing up in Raleigh, a lot of my mother included, like the Redskins, because they were the closest team. There was no Atlanta Falcons. There was the at that time there were the Baltimore Colts. So they were the next closest team. But I hated the Redskins. I didn't like the uniforms. I don't know why I didn't. The reason I liked Los Angeles, because when I think it's in the late 60s, I'd been 8 or 9, the All-American quarterback for NC State's name who played for us was Roman Gabriel. And he was drafted by the Rams.
Oh,
and he played his career there, and he was NFL. He was a pro. He was an all-pro. He was great for his career. And so that's how I became, and I thought the helmets were cool. So between Roman Gabriel being their quarterback, a North Carolina NC State guy, and their helmets. So I pulled for them until late teens, and I kind of pulled for Miami when they came around.
Yeah, they've got to have the best helmets in the NFL with those Ram horns. That's way too cool. You can't beat that.
So that's I kind of still like the Rams when they got the right people. So that's what we've got. So there's 4 teams left. Super Bowl, believe me, they spend a lot of money building up for 2 weeks. So it'll be February 8th. I think it's that Monday night, February 8th is Super. So there's 2 weeks after this weekend. There'll be 2 weeks in between because it's just all about money. It's pumping up festivities. It's
building
commercials. Right. The last thing I was going to say is, last thing we've talked about all the firings in the NFL. Well, there's been a couple more. Shockingly, they fired the Buffalo head coach after they didn't win that game. So there's been 10, let me get my hands up there, 10 firings this year out of 32 teams. It's normally 6 or 7. Normally 6 or 7. but there's been 10, and there's still, I think there's been 4 hired or 3, 6 or 7. I think 6 still need to be hired. So
These
it's crazy
managers
times.
are trigger happy. Holy cow!
Yeah. Or the owners, usually the owners.
Oh, owners.
All right, my
that's
friend,
right.
that's what I got. What else you got to wrap?
Well, we got mailbag stuff, but either I'll save it for next week or I'll just do it on the Instagram this week. But you guys sent some pretty funny and crazy stuff. You know, the thing I got sent the most, I'll just mention this. Did you see this, Dad, that a high school football program got shut down? Let me find the point differential.
It was high school, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see something about that.
It's going to take me too long to pull it up, but basically it was like in the last 2 seasons, they'd been outscored 400 something to 0. Like they hadn't scored a single point in 2 years.
Yeah. It's a good idea to find a new way figure out a new plan. I think that's probably a good idea.
But it was just, I guess it's very memeable. And so several people sent me that. But yeah, there's a couple other.
What about what's the wardrobe malfunction? You got to tell me that.
Oh, that's the one. All right. So basically, I think this a very notable incident of this happened about a year ago, and it was on Travis and Jason Kelsey's podcast and everything. But I can't remember the guy's name. But there was a guy with a white, the away uniform is white, usually for these teams, and so he had his away uniform on, and his pants had a brown stain, down in the lower parts, and apparently this happens. The Kelseys on their podcast said this happens quite a bit, at least a handful of times a season per team, where you're exerting so much energy and effort. And this is from Derek, by the way, from work. So thanks for sending this in, Derek. That a lot of players poop their pants on the field.
Oh yeah.
And so basically sometimes they'll be shipped off to the locker room, and they'll have an injury report. What do you call it? Like status for them.
Yeah.
And it'll say wardrobe malfunction. So pretty much if you see that, you can
that's funny.
count on it that they poop their uniform. So
I've never heard of that. I will say there's a famous lineman for and I'm a big fan for the Denver Broncos back when they won all their Super Bowls 30 years ago. Anyway, I mean, they call his nickname Stink because he'd get his uniform on so tight everywhere, including his pants. And he'd take in so much fluid, but he peed right there on the field. He peed wherever, right in his pants. He would not take the time. Oh yeah. A lot of guys, there's guys that do that. Definitely pee in their pants.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
that's
they called
crazy.
him. His nickname is still Stink. That's his nickname.
Okay, well, I want to hear more about that later. But that's wild. That's wild. All right, that's a good one to end on. But yeah, send us anything to our DMs or text this week if you see any just funny things or cool stories that you want us to talk about next week. But these next couple weeks are going to be I think we're going to just do some deep dives on the teams and really get you guys ready for the Super Bowl, so you can pick who you want to root for and kind of get hyped, so that you can be excited for something more than just the commercials. So, Dad, thank you so much. I guess you were more of a listener with Keaton tonight, but
that was
thanks
perfect.
for letting him.
I still got my 2 cents worth in. I love having. Yeah, we need to do that more often. Keaton's good to have on. I tell you what, he can cover a lot of ground. He's good. Again, especially in football where he's played it, coached it at a college level.
Lived and breathed.
You get some real insights, I think, that you don't if you're just a fan like me.
Which now I should have asked Keaton while he was on here, has he ever pooped his pants playing? We got to find out.
Well,
so tune in. Everybody tune in next week.
I'm betting he hasn't. I know Keaton. But anyway, that's funny.
He probably would have rather starved himself for a week before.
Yeah, he'd have done something, but I don't know what. But ruptured his whole insides. But
yeah.
All right, man.
Well, all right, Dad. See you later.
All right,
love you.
Bye, buddy.
Bye.
SportSense.